Eddie, some people believe they can't join the renewable revolution because of their living situation. They may live in an apartment complex as a unit, or they might have a townhouse which has a shared roof, so they can't get a solar system. How can they join renewables?
Yeah, that's a really great point, because up until now, you've had to put solar panels on your roof, right? And then if you don't have a roof to put solar panels, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm out, I'll go off and recycle my cans, or I'll do what I can. But recently, I've just installed a Tesla Powerwall on my shack, actually, as a trial for this very same thing, right? So basically, no solar, just the Powerwall to trade the wholesale market, right? So what I'm trying to look at is, how does NRG Solar help someone when they're, exactly what you said, renting a house maybe and they can't put a permanent infrastructure in place, or whether they're an apartment building owner, they've got a balcony maybe, a great place, car park, somewhere to put a Tesla Powerwall or a battery, and how can they use that to save money?
So if you have your Tesla Powerwall attached to your shack that doesn't have a solar system, can you explain how that works? Because usually to gain any kind of like feed-in tariff or reduce your electricity bills, you need to have a solar system to do that, but you're just doing it with a Tesla Powerwall battery.
That's right, yeah. So so what I'm doing, right, is you can have a look on here, right? So if you have a look right now, you can see that the wholesale price of energy, like right now when we're speaking, is 3 cents.
Yeah.
So my battery can be charging from the grid at 3 cents, and sometimes that price is negative. Right, so if that price is negative, I'm getting paid money to take power from the grid and charge it in the battery.
Okay.
Right now. So that's in the battery now, and the sun sets later on this afternoon.
Yep.
And you can see just in this little example, you can see just in a few hours' time, by about 4 o'clock, 4:30, that price will go to 24 cents.
Right. That's when the premium times, that's when people are going to be using electricity more because they come home.
Yep.
So the supply cost is going to cost more.
Yep. Yeah, and particularly in South Australia where there's high renewables as an example. So the sun sets, so all the solar starts to drop off. Everyone's rolling into their house, like you said, all the air cons are going on. So all of a sudden we need more power in the grid. So that battery that I've got, that can now supply my house for free or for 3 cents or negative sometimes. Or if that price does spike and it goes up to be really high, sometimes it's like $6. It can actually say, don't worry about supplying the house right now. Let's just dump that battery into the grid and get paid $60, $70 or whatever it might be over the course of a few days of doing that.
So technically what you're doing is like during the non-peak times during the day, you're drawing power from the grid to power whatever's in the shack, plus charge the battery. And then when peak time comes and the sun sets, the battery then just feeds it back to the grid and you're just making money off that. So you're kind of leveraging the low cost times during the day and you're selling back at high cost times to essentially like be part of the renewables, cut costs on your electricity bills, and also just go into credit essentially.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so, and that's an interesting point that you've said, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to go, well, that's not really being part of renewables, that's bullshit. You're just actually, using the grid for the whole thing. But I'll tell you why it actually is. Because the reason why the price is so low is that at that time, it would be over 100% powered by renewable energy from South Australia. So wind and solar will make up the majority of the power, right? And when that's got an overabundance in the grid, the price drops into the negative, all right? So at night, when we don't have enough renewables, we don't have coal in South Australia, right? So we're probably going to be buying dirty power from Victoria or somewhere else through the national energy market, right? Yep. So therefore, actually, it is quite true. When prices are low, it's 100% renewables. Mm-hmm. So yes, you are putting green renewable energy in that battery. You're storing it, and when prices are high and you'd otherwise be buying dirty power from the grid, you're actually surviving off the battery. Or, like you said, pumping that battery back into the grid and actually supplying a bit of green energy back into the grid.
Yeah, so it's kind of like going back to the beginning of the day where it's like it doesn't cost much, but it's 100% renewables. It's because not many people are at home using power at work in all those cases. But when it goes into the peak times, everyone's suddenly trying to tap into that, what at that time is 100% renewable energy. and we don't want to start using coal because it's buying dirty power from the NEM. And so what's happening is we're having to incorporate things like coal or like gas, other forms of electricity.
Yep.
But in order for us to kind of negate that as best we can, you're selling back renewable energy to mitigate and lessen that cost of essentially what is not renewable energies.
100%. And, you know, my little battery at my shack's probably not making a blip on any radar. But if enough of us got together and did this, like we would all benefit from, again, soaking in an enormous amount of renewable surplus energy during the day, which is really good for our grid and it's really good for our environment. But it also means, you know, with enough of us doing this at night, it means buying less power from interstate and, you know, again, making the most of the renewable energy that we have available to us in SA.
So essentially like you're like an early, if not like the first adopter of this kind of process, but if more people jump on this, it then increases the feedback of renewables at the peak times, which again lessens that gap even more of non-renewable energy.
Yeah, exactly right. So right now we might say, at night time we're, you know, 40% renewable energy, which is perhaps the wind still going, or 50%, whatever the number might be at that time, and the rest of it's not renewable energy. Well, if we had, you know, 100,000 of these batteries doing this, that would actually make an enormous difference to that percentage.
Okay.
There'd be way more renewables that were captured, stored, and then offset at night.
Okay. And this is simply for the case of if you can't have a solar system installed, but you can have a battery installed. But if people could somehow still add a solar system to some degree, that just adds more onto this factor, doesn't it?
Yeah, in a way. There's one thing about if you do that, you can add solar for sure. This whole scenario works. The issue that you've got to talk to someone who really knows what they're talking about. So, you know, we really need to make sure that when we're talking with a customer about this solution, it's really, really smart. Because I'll tell you the risk, right? The risk is you put in battery storage, you go over the top, massive solar system, and then you trade the wholesale market, right? Now all of a sudden it's 12 o'clock, middle of the day, your battery's full, your solar's blasting all this power out into the grid, and the price drops into the negative. You're being charged to send, so you need to be able to control that solar to say, don't send power back to the grid in a negative event. And at the moment, we've got controlling batteries down pretty well. We haven't got controlling solar down as well. It is a work in progress. There are ways for us to do it, but I can tell you now, it's tricky and most people don't know how to do it. So it's not to be left in the hands of someone who doesn't know what they're doing. And I'll give you an example of price ranges, right? The prices can go to $14 in either direction a kilowatt hour, right? So a Tesla Powerwall left rogue in a grid event for 2 hours can cost you $140.
So that you're being charged?
Yeah, you could be charged. So I'll tell you something about prices, right? So the prices are, they can go from, you know, we talk about 6-cent feed-in tariff, or I just talked about 3 cents to 24 cents. In huge grid events, the demand or the requirement could be so high that the price can spike up to $14 in either direction. All right, so you do have the opportunity to earn $14 if the price is $14 and you're able to, you know, supply in. But if it's negative $14, as an example, and your solar's pumping in 10 kilowatts, some huge system, you've put a 10 kilowatt system on, you're pumping in 10 kilowatts, you're going to be charged $140 every hour that you let that system just go rogue into the grid. Because why? Because the grid doesn't want your power. It's already said it's got too much. That's why the price is negative.
Yeah, and you kind of have like, essentially, if your battery is full, but your solar system, if your battery is full in the middle of the day and your solar system is just pumping that amount of energy and nothing in your home is consuming it, you kind of have no choice but to send it out. Otherwise, the powers can't go anywhere. That can cause issues, can't it?
No, well, you do have a choice. You can, if you know, again, you need to be working with someone who really understands this, right? So we get this at NRG Solar, so it's easier for us to understand. But for most, that would be a problem. We would need to think about how do we build a smart system that actually can turn off or, you know, turn the solar down in a negative event. All right. So, and for most people, they can't be bothered with all this, so they'll accept a 6-cent feed-in tariff and they'll be done with it, right?
Yeah.
And for that plan, that would never work in the situation that I've just discussed. But if I look at my app right now, like let's just see what's going on in my shack. For my last 30 days, let me refresh this, up until today. So for my last 30 days, my usage cost is negative $65. So I'm $65 in credit on my usage costs. And that's after I've supplied power to my shack. So my shack's running pumps and doing its thing, fridges and whatnot. Not a lot's going on there, to be honest, because bloody river flooded, so not too many people went there. But apart from the fact that not a lot's going down there right now, that's exactly what's happening. So it's paying for itself, it's supporting the home, and it's trading the market. And in all reality, I've only had this turned on for 30 days, and this algorithm is getting smarter and smarter every day. I can see it actually getting smarter every day. So, like, if you go back to the early days of me putting it in, you can hardly see any interaction with the yellow being the solar exporting, and then you can see a couple big ones, and then it was quiet, and then it was quiet, and you can kind of see that it's happening more and more frequently now.
Yeah.
That's not because the price is better, that's because the battery's learning. It's learning about my house. It's starting to realize, hey, there's not many people here very often. There's not much power going on. I can see when these pumps come on and off. Maybe I'll just work around that. That's how smart we've built this to be able to do this.
So is it, I've got to catch up a little bit here.
Yeah.
So this is only possible because of the Tesla monitoring app or the capabilities of the Tesla paired with the wholesaler that you have with it?
Yeah, so this what I've put in place is only possible using the Amber's Smart Shift program, and I've got it paired with the Tesla
And
that uses that.
Amber is the wholesaler.
And Amber's the retailer, so Amber's like AGL.
Yep.
So actual fact, I was with Alinta, I think, at my shack or someone, I don't know, I think Alinta, and I switched from Alinta to Amber when on the same day that I installed my battery, and then I turned that into a smart battery and a smart shift program.
Yeah, and Amber allows you to turn the battery into a smart battery?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so in effect, Amber are controlling the battery because they're the ones who know the market. Now, I've also got control on it as well, which is interesting because they might say, dump all this power into the grid because Eddy's not going to need his battery because he's never home on a Sunday night. How would they know? Because traditionally I haven't been. I might be on my way driving up the shack knowing full well I'm going to be there on the Sunday night. All I do is go on my app and say, I'll take control of this one for now.
Okay.
All right, and it's like a simple little button in one of these settings here. I don't know where it is. I'll find it for you. But yeah, you just hit that, and then you basically you've got these options, these smart shift settings here, so you can turn on smart shift automation and turn it off. You can also change some of it. So I've got it on an optimizer, which is aggressive, but you can put it for those who like a fuller battery, and you can kind of dial it down and not be so aggressive with the way that it trades.
Be a bit more conservative.
And the other thing as well is that I can actually just go straight in here and take immediate control of my battery. So I can charge, I can dispatch energy, I can put it into standby, I can consume from it. So in other words, I could literally say, don't charge, don't discharge, just preserve. And that might be an example where I can see that I'm going to be going up there and it's going to be irregular. Or if I lived in an apartment building, as an example, it would know that, it would soon learn that I go to work Monday to Friday and I'm there on weekends, and that it might trade that way. Well, it might be that I am actually going to have the day off on Friday, and therefore maybe I don't want the normal activity, and I might want to take control of it myself or move it down to one of those sort of more less aggressive plans.
Okay.
So I've got all of that at my hands. I don't have to ring anybody. I don't have to talk to anyone. Click a button. Don't worry about it.
So essentially, it's a pairing of hardware with a retailer and like their software essentially, and you can kind of just let it go on autopilot, or because it's a smart, I've forgotten the words here, but it's more like it it builds an algorithm based on the usage. So it's becoming a smart battery. It's observing what's happening.
Yeah.
And it will kind of tailor towards your interaction via the use of your electricity. It will tailor towards that. And sometimes you can just do it like you've left it at the shack and be like, it will just run on autopilot, and you might want to go up there for like the weekend or the holidays, or when it's nice and hot, or a long weekend, and you go, oh, I want to take immediate control because we're going to be here for longer. So this is a lot. Honestly, it's a lot to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
It's a lot to wrap my head around. This. So is this a world first, or is this like an Australia first thing? Like how? Because this is. A lot of people have already asked you. It's like, how are you doing this? They want to talk to you.
Yeah. Look, the reason why I installed it a month ago, and the reason why I haven't come out yet is because, I wanted to see how it went. But I was pre-warned that the Tesla won't know what's going on at the beginning. So don't expect great results straight away. It takes time, like a diet or whatever, right? It takes time to kick in.
Like an early adopter.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, but it's been way quicker. In answer to your question, look, I don't know of anybody else in the world that has a Tesla running on its own on the Amber Smart Shift plan that's working exactly like this in this environment with zero solar. Mm-hmm. Maybe there is, and if there is, they can reach out and let me know, and that'll be amazing, and I'll give them a world first badge. But for the moment, I'm pretty sure that this is a world first. Particularly on a property that's set up like this, because I really wanted to. I often get people ring me and they've got a holiday house or a shack, and they don't have an enormous bill, and they're like, is it worth me putting solar on? My bill's only $400 a quarter, and it's a big shack and it runs pumps every now and then and this and that, and I'm not sure it's that sort of investment is worth me putting on a big solar system on a property that I'm never there, right? And I often don't know the exact answer. It's kind of like, it's up to you. I mean, if you do it once now, you'll probably never ever pay for electricity in that shack again. Maybe your payback will be longer because you're not there to absorb and use the power. But, so quite often a lot of people say, you know what, you're right, bugger it, I'm going to keep this shack for the next 25 years. I'll put a solar system on it and it'll take me a while to pay back. Now I've got a solid answer that says, you know what, don't put a stomper solar system on. Perhaps let's just put 8 panels. Let's just put 2 kilowatts on, right? And let's couple that, instead of spending all the money on solar panels, let's put the money with a smart battery and let that make up the difference. And that's kind of where I'm feeling that this trial is going to end up.
Okay. So it's essentially like paving the way to answer the question of another way of doing the renewables.
Yeah.
Essentially, when people believe, again, they kind of can't, or their circumstances say they can't.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of information packed into all this, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface as I'm asking you these questions. People watching probably have more questions that I can't figure out on the spot. So what's the best way to ask these questions? Is just to get in touch with us?
Yeah, look, I think that's right. So certainly, if you've got questions around this, definitely get in touch with us. I was thinking, if enough people have some questions, we could stream something live and invite people in just to come and view, and I'll answer live questions, and I'll try and demonstrate, show my app and show some bits and pieces. That's an option that we could do. So, really at this stage, I'm interested in finding out, do you have an interest in this? Do you think that you will actually end up doing something like this? Are you renting a place and you can't put a permanent infrastructure? How could we put a battery? How could we connect that into the meter in a way that's not going to, if we're putting solar panels on someone's roof, it's pretty permanent.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to do that on some. But if they've got a battery, can they move that in? Can they take advantage of something like this to join the renewable world? And then, when they move to their next house or when they buy a house or whatever, can they take that battery with them, right? That's the strategy I want to explore. And it's interesting, a number of our customers have already moved their batteries. We've got batteries in the warehouse right now that you've seen them out there, right? Yeah, so they're not new in boxes. They're people's batteries, and that's because they're moving between houses right now, right? So we've deployed them out of one house while they've put it on the market, and we've moved it into their new home, right? Well, that's really got me thinking. Why can't people that are renting a house do that?
Yeah.
You know, maybe we can't drill a million holes in a wall and, you know, do that, but maybe we can build a custom stand for it. You know, like there's just got to be a way for us to solve this problem. It's right on the top of the agenda. And I'm really interested in hearing from people out there as what solutions do they want, because we're ready to build them for them and get them in and get them going.
Yeah, because like the solar industry is constantly evolving. You're trying to innovate a way to help it continue evolving, and so everyone can join it, because we don't want the solar industry to be kind of like an exclusive club that you have to own at home to be a part of it. We want everyone to be a part of it, because it's, well, essentially for the greater good. We want to be renewable energy. We want to move off coal. We want to move off like petrol, and like we want to go to electric vehicles and everything. There's a lot in this.
Oh man,
there's so much potential.
Don't even get me started on how electric vehicles can interact and make you and save you even more money. But that's the story for another day.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing this. This has been like very eye-opening for me. Makes me want to buy a Tesla. I need to buy a house first, but
no, you don't.
Yeah, I guess I can just buy a Tesla Powerwall.
Yeah, all right.
And pair it.
Next week, your house.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ed.
All right, cheers. Good on you, Luke.